Good evening, YouTubers. David Artis back here. Welcome back to my channel. It is not my regular night. Wednesday, 5:16 p.m., July 31st, 2019. But the deadline is officially over here. Astros, of course, big winners, and I'll get into that in just a minute. Not a lot going on for most of this deadline. I don't know necessarily who I caught you up with on Sunday. I think I mentioned Marcus Stroman moving to the Mets, kind of a head scratcher there. And then last night, Trevor Bauer, late last night, he gets traded over to the Reds. So two top pitching, people that were on the market that, some of the contenders were looking at, Astros, Yankees, just teams that need starting pitchers, like we do. Of course, the Yankees do. Really, any team that's in contention can use a starter. You never have like a surplus where you don't need that. Sometimes it's not your biggest need, but any team could use a starter, and those were two top people on the market, and they both got picked up by teams that are probably not making playoffs unless they go on some amazing run here in the last 2 months. But a lot wasn't going on today. Today being, the deadline here at 3 o'clock is the day where most of the moves get made because you're tight on time. So there were a lot of minor moves going on most of the afternoon. A lot of bullpen pitchers here and there moving. The Astros actually were the second move. So Jesus Aguilar of the Brewers, who has been having a down year, got moved over to the Tampa Bay Rays, I believe. That was the first move of today. The second actually involved the Astros going back out, getting Martin Maldonado, who was a guy they had last year that they got before the trade deadline. The big reason for that was that Brian McCann last year had knee surgery and was on the disabled list, is what it was called last year. He was on that for a good 2 months, so they needed somebody to help out. And they had Max Stassi and Tim Fedorovich, and they let Fedorovich go, getting Maldonado. Maldonado even, was the main catcher even after McCann came back. If I remember the playoffs correctly, Maldonado was in there like every game, I felt like. And I actually liked him. I think he played well. He's known for his defense, throwing out base runners, things like that. Any offense you get is a bonus. But he also wasn't terrible with the bat last year. So getting him back, I think, is a big acquisition. They did let Max Stassi go to the Angels for a couple of minor league outfielders. That was one of those moves at the very end. But having Chirinos and Maldonado, I think, is good. In fact, I'd expect Maldonado to take playing time away from Robinson Chirinos. We'll just see how it shakes out here. So that was, the second move of the day, which I was happy with. But again, we weren't going into this thinking position players. We were going into this thinking starting pitchers, maybe a reliever. In a perfect world, I remember thinking if they could get, one or two starters and a reliever, that would be perfect. So I'm kind of just building up kind of what went down here. But Maldonado was the first of the acquisition. And then, in between that and the big ones I'll talk about in just a minute. So there was a lot of relievers, not any really big names. Like Felipe Vasquez was a big name that didn't get moved. Noah Syndergaard didn't get moved, and neither did Madison Bumgarner. Some of the big pitchers out there that we thought might. And the Mets basically kept what they had. The only thing they did was add Marcus Stroman. And they're 5 games under 500. They're way out of the division. And they're, six games out of the wild card. So we'll just wait and see. They feel like they can compete. The Giants feel like they can compete. They kept everybody as well. Well, they didn't make a few. So they let go of Sam Dyson, Mark Melancon, a couple of the bullpen pieces there. So there wasn't a lot of action. I mean, there were a lot of small trades, but nothing real huge. Like I said, it was a lot of relief pitchers moving. And, when it hits 3 o'clock, you kind of sit around because there's always a few deals that sort of trickle in after that. But that's when things really went down for us. So sitting there at 3 not feeling good because the Astros were in talks. Another guy left out of the Mets that we thought was going to definitely be going was Zach Wheeler. And the Astros were in talks with him, it seemed like, all afternoon. Also, the other guy we forgot to mention was Robbie Ray of the D-backs. Those are the two pitchers that were definitely, for sure, were going to be moved, and neither of them did. So that's the crazy part, and it seemed like the Astros were linked to those two guys all afternoon. So at 3 o'clock, you're kind of disappointed. All you added was Maldonado, which is a guy nobody really thought we were going to get, and you didn't add your bullpen or your starting staff. So there we go. But enough just building this up here. So Joe Biagini gets moved over. This is after 3 o'clock. Aaron Sanchez got traded. We didn't know the team right away. And then, sure enough, the Astros got Sanchez. So when those two moves come over or break, the breaking news there, you're thinking, all right, Biagini's a good bullpen piece. They put Ryan Presley on the IL today. They brought up somebody from AA who will be sent right back down because now you have to make room for these people. We'll see what Biagini does. He's got an ERA like at 3.78, so it's not amazing, but not bad. We'll see what he does. Aaron Sanchez, who started all year for Toronto, he's like 3-14. His ERA's over 5 or 6, so he hasn't pitched well, but he will be put. Originally, when the trade's made, you think Aaron Sanchez will be put into the rotation, but Zach Greinke at the very end also got moved over from the D-backs. So that was the big one. That was the big picture. Nobody really had talked about it, seemed like all year, or all of today, I should say, as being a starting pitcher on the market. Robbie Ray was the big guy from Arizona everybody thought would be moved, but no. The Astros went after Greinke. They got him. So he will go into the rotation, which will push Aaron Sanchez into the bullpen somewhere. And we'll see how things shape up. I don't know. They let Max Stassi, as I mentioned, go back to the Angels. Well, they just let him go, basically. They traded him for 2 minor league outfielders. I don't even, never heard of him in my life. I don't hear a lot about prospects. I just basically go on the rankings. So what MLB Network has as their top 100 prospects is basically how I would rank them, or just, So Stassi's gone. You have to make 3 other transactions. You're going to have to move 3 people down. One of those people will be the person they called up, don't even know his name, for Ryan Presley. I know he was a AA pitcher, so he will be probably put back down, and I don't even want to guess. Cy Sneed probably going to be the odd man out, one of those people in the bullpen, and we'll see. Need 2 others with Greinke, and of course, Sanchez would take over for Cy Sneed. So Biagini, I don't know who necessarily goes down. I'm trying to think. I mean, I would probably just cut Rondon at this point. I think he's not needed. And you know how I feel about Hector Rondon. And then I don't know what they would do for Aaron Sanchez. So this will all happen either tonight or tomorrow. So when I talk to you Sunday, I should have a better... I'll know who the corresponding moves were. But adding Zach Greinke, man, Jeff Luhnow, he just... Bravo. Bravo is all I can say. They're in it to win it. And they made the moves. And the Yankees, the big competition in the American League right now is the Yankees. They didn't make any moves, and their starting pitching was not very good. They very thin at that spot, that part of the team. If they get Severino back, we'll see. But I wouldn't expect Severino to be anything close to what he was last year after dealing with this injury. He hasn't pitched all year, so we'll see there. But Greinke's going to slide right in there. I don't know exactly where he'll pitch. He actually pitched today, believe that or not, with the D-backs this afternoon. So right after the game was finishing, but he was out of the clubhouse on his way to Houston before the game even ended. So, but yeah, so the Astros definitely went out and said, we're going all in here. Adding Greinke, Biagini, Sanchez, Maldonado, getting 4 people. You don't expect, yeah, Houston sports franchises don't usually make big moves when it comes to trade deadlines. Off season, yes, here and there. Like what Russell Westbrook going to the Rockets was a big one, but in season to make 4 big moves. I mean, the big one is of course Greinke, but I don't think that. I think Biagini and Sanchez will be kind of the under the radar moves that can actually help in the bullpen because we do need help there. Your back end right now is just Harris and Osuna with Presley on the IL. But yeah, I mean your starters now, especially when you look at a playoff series, Verlander, Greinke, Cole, Miley, you could throw all of them out there. All of them have, ERAs. You got 3 at sub 3. The only one that's over 3 is Wade Miley, and he's like at 3.03. So it's just nasty. It's stupid good. And when you add that to the lineup, now that all of us are healthy, it's just it's really. I mean, the Astros are under enormous amount of pressure. Like they have to win the World Series. If they don't, it's a major disappointment. Back in 2017, I said World Series or bust. This year, they just simply have to win. It's just that simple. If they don't, it's a big deal. It's. But I don't know who can beat them. I mean, the Yankees, unless they can go opener route, because their bullpen is pretty good. They tried to make a move for another bullpen piece. I don't think they got him. If they get Betances back, so Betances and Severino are the 2 people they have to hope to get back and actually get them to pitch basically what they were last year to have a chance, I think, at beating us. But we have our starters. We added to the bullpen. Our lineup is already as good as it gets. Maldonado helps defensively. Top to bottom, they have a better roster than anybody in Major League Baseball. You can tell me I'm being biased, but I'm not. I mean, it's just tell me who's got a better 25-man roster than the Astros do right now. It's not even close, really. That's why the World Series is this important. So anyway, yeah, big news. I even took off work today so I keep track of these trades. I'm glad I did. It's warranted, but yeah, it'll be fun to finish off these last 2 months in the regular season, see how well they can finish out the season. They're like tied with the Yankees, I think, for the best record. But, the goal, which I mentioned last week, was getting to 100 wins, seeing how far you could get over that mark if and when you get there, and, of course, having the best record in American League so you have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Big moves. Can't overstate it anymore, really. Trying to think of corresponding moves. Cy Snead, I think, will be sent down. So when I woke up this morning, I actually learned that they put Ryan Presley on the IL, and then I'm trying to figure out exactly who they brought up because he's obviously might be looking. So somebody with the last name Abreu will probably be sent down. He's here for today, but all these roster acquisitions moves will be made tomorrow when these players officially become a part of the team. So Stassi's gone. That was one. I believe this Abreu kid, relief pitcher, will be gone. Cy Snead. And then there's 2 others. I mentioned Rondon. I mean, you'd be looking at pitchers, I feel like. They actually have Maldonado on the 25-man roster as I'm looking at this lineup tonight. But out of the bullpen pitchers, of course, Osuna, Harris are staying. You have Joe Smith, Colin McHugh, Chris Davinsky. Those 3 are going to be the ones you look at. Rondon, of course, should be. I don't know if you can send him down or release him, but there's going to be some tough decisions with letting some people go here. So 3 people, and you're looking at the bullpen for at least 2. I mean, you can't, when it comes to position players, it's just Stroll and Diaz, basically. You're not letting any of them go, along with Martin Maldonado. So we'll wait and see how things end up going there. When Peacock will be back at some point. I don't know when, but he most likely will be moving into the bullpen McHugh might be the odd man out. Rondon should be. But you'll have the. I don't see them letting go of Davinsky just because they like him to get lefties out. Biagini and Sanchez are not left-handed relievers. They're all right-handed. So, but Greinke being the big piece to really solidify and just bolster the rotation. When it came to teams that needed starting pitching, the Astros weren't top of the line, and they got the big starter that we didn't even know was actually on the market, or I didn't at least. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to wrap up the trade deadline. I could go through some other moves, but there was a lot that were made. None were very significant. The Giants let a few of their bullpen pitchers go. Mets kept everybody. The Reds got Bauer. They didn't really move anybody. There was some talk about some of their relievers. Felipe Vasquez. The teams that had the talent that teams, I talk about this, teams that are looking for prospects that are selling their major league ready players now have all the leverage in these talks when it comes to trading, because they just do, and they had their set. They were looking for a package that a lot of teams were not willing to sell. Yankees were in talks all day, but were not willing to give up their top prospects. The Dodgers were another team. They were heavily into Felipe Vasquez, but were not willing to give up their top prospects. So that's kind of how things went. There wasn't a lot of big action until the Greinke deal. I'm just glad it was us. I didn't feel terrible. Like, the silver lining at 3 o'clock before these three people got traded over to us was that the Yankees didn't get better. The Dodgers didn't really get better. The Red Sox, the Indians, any other team you think, the Twins, a lot of those teams didn't really get a whole lot better, so it didn't really affect us. The Yankees have picked up a starter, another reliever. The Dodgers have gotten better. Teams I feel like we'll be facing in the playoffs, they didn't add a whole lot. We did, and we were already probably, before these moves, ranked right up there with them. So I feel good about the team. It'll be an interesting next few days to see the roster transactions, people sent down, dropped, whatever actually ends up happening. But yeah, we're set for a World Series. I'm not going to beat around the bush. That's the goal. And now it's, if we don't win, it's just a major letdown. But Jeff Luhnow, big props, went all in. They said they were going to do this when it was time. Payroll jumps up with Greinke. Forgot the people that we actually gave up. So definitely worth mentioning. So they actually kept both Kyle Tucker and Forrest Whitley. Surprising. But they did let go of J.B. Bukauskas, who was a guy that was highly regarded. Seth Beer was another guy. Corbin Martin, who actually pitched earlier this year, also dealt. Derek Fisher went in a deal. I think that was to the Blue Jays. He went to the Blue Jays there. And there was another guy, Rojas is his last name, who was pretty high up. I'm trying to get his first name here. I'll get it in just a minute for you. So look here. I have to go back. It was Joshua Rojas, who I had never really heard of, but apparently he was pretty high up in the farm system. So, I mean, you let go of 3, 4, and 5 there with Seth Beer, J.B. Bukauskas, and Corbin Martin. And then Rojas was down there, 40-something ranked prospect. But they kept the top 2. And Arizona's sending over $23 million to pay off a little bit of Greinke's contract, because he's got a pretty he's making $70-something million, so they gave us almost a third of what he's getting paid. So we did well. This is the time. For all those years when we were rebuilding and trading what we had, Hunter Pence, Michael Bourne, Lance Berkman, people that we had that we were trading to get prospects, you have to have it both ways. So you don't want to mortgage the future, but at the same time, your window's wide open right now, and the Astros and Jeff Luhnow took full advantage. Jim Crane as well. AJ Hinch. I will never. I already bow down to Jeff Luhnow. but more so now. And hopefully this works out. And I want to get too ahead of myself, get over cocky here. I mean, you still got to go out there. You got to play these games. You can't, underestimate anybody, of course. But I feel very good about what we've been able to do here. So coming up on 20 minutes, I'll wrap things up there. Please share this with your friends, subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. A lot of news surrounding the Astros and what's happened. So I'd love to hear your comments. But do all that good stuff there on YouTube. And again, I'll talk to you Sunday, and I'll have a better grasp of who is sent down, released, things like that. And I can give you a full 25-man roster wrap-up. And also talk about the week in baseball. Got 2 more here with the Indians, and then they'll come back home. Big Hall of Fame weekend with the Mariners for 3. And I'll talk to you Sunday night. So big, historic day for the Astros. Couldn't be more excited. But I'll wrap things up there. Again, do all that good stuff on YouTube, and we'll see you Sunday night.